Hi, this is David. Today I'm going to work with question 21 to question 30 on our first midterm practice exam. Um, so let's start. The first question we're going to talk about is question 21. So we're working with a 2-year coupon bond. So the coupon payment is $8 and the face value is 100. The right way to calculate it out is to use the multiple year bond payment calculation equation, which is the price will equals to the first coupon payment discounted with 1 year of interest rate, and the second year coupon payment divided by 1 plus I to the power of 2. And also at the end of the second year, we receive our face value. So that is going to be the face value divided by 1 plus I to the power of 2. And we just plug in everything we know. We know the coupon payment is $8. And the interest rate is 4%. So the denominator is 1.04. The second term will be 8 divided by 1.04 to the power of 2. The third term will be 100 divided by 1.04 to the power of 2. And eventually, the answer is it's $107.70, or it can be rounded to there. All right. So there will be other methods you can use. For example, since we have coupon payment, we have interest rate, we have face value, we have number of years. So you can use financial calculator. Just plug in everything, and it's going to tell you the same answer. And also, if you can always verify your answer really quickly by take a look of, on average, does your answer make sense? All right. So basically, if all the options are kind of like far away from each other, there's a huge gap in between. So we can roughly guess whether this answer is correct. Okay. So if the price is 107, then it is about 108, right? So basically, I invested 108, and in total, I got 116 back. Okay, so it's like in 2 years I'm making $8, and you divide it by 2, that's roughly 4%. So that means we are getting a pretty close answer. However, if Dr. George gives you an option saying that this is 101, 102, 103, 104, then you cannot verify your answer by doing this, just because it may be too close to figure it out. So you have to use the equation to get the precise answer and to select the right one. Okay. Question 2, a liquid asset is what? A share of an ocean resort. So liquid asset just means an asset that you can easily sold to get cash. That's exactly what option B is. So both A and C are pretty obvious to be the wrong answer, because it is really hard to resell all those kind of things. All right. D is not right because it can be sold not in an over-the-counter market. Okay, so it's not always sold in an over-the-counter market. This is straightforward. So 23, somehow the display in the OneNote is a little bit weird, so bear with me. It says an increase in the riskiness of corporate bond will do what to the price of corporate bonds and do what to the price of treasury bonds if we held everything else constant. Okay, so whenever we see two assets, I'm going to draw the supply and demand curve for those assets. Okay, so over here we have the supply and demand for C bond, that's for corporate bond, and then beside it we have supply and demand curve for or T-bond. That's or treasury bond. Okay. So since the risk of corporate bond is changing, we know if you still remember, there are 3 factors that's going to shift the supply curve, and there are 5 factors that will shift the demand curve. And the risk, the relative risk of the bond, is one of the factors that is going to shift demand curve. So when risk increase, we're going to demand less of corporate bonds. So demand curve shift to the left, which makes the price dropping. So the first one is going to be reduced. The second one, when corporate bonds riskness gets relatively lower and T-bond return risk is at the same place, so relatively T-bond becomes safer. So the risk is lower for T-bond. Bond, we're going to demand more of treasury bond. Okay. Or someone is thinking about, okay, so if I have a fixed amount of money I want to invest, if I buy less C-bond, I'm going to move my money to the treasury bond market. That thinking is perfectly fine in this case, all right? So price is going to increase for T-bond. So the right answer is A over here. And 24 is a question about M1, M2. I highly recommend you to memorize this graph where in M1 we have cash and checking account, and that's a small circle, and around it we have M2. So M2 include M1 and plus some saving account and money market mutual fund, something that is extremely short term, and also small dominate time deposit. Okay, so after drawing this graph, it is not hard to see if we have a small denomination time deposit and we put it into a checking account, that means I'm moving money from this account to the checking account. So in general, M1 will be larger. So for example, it increased by this much, but time deposit is going to decrease by the same amount, which means M1 is going to increase, but M2 is not going to change, okay? Because M2 includes both M1 and time deposit. When you're doing transfer in between these two accounts, it doesn't really change the size of M2. So M2 is going to stay the same. So option A is correct. Suppose you have a fixed rate for 25. Suppose you have a fixed rate mortgage with a nominal interest rate 4%. Expected annual inflation rate over the life of the mortgage is going to be 2%. What is the expected real interest rate? This is really simple as long as you know the equation that you want to work with. Basically, that's a real interest rate equals to the nominal interest rate minus your expectation in inflation rate. Okay, so we know the nominal interest rate to be 4%, and we expect the annual inflation rate to be 2%. So the difference is only 2%. This is really simple. A is the right answer. And question 26. Patrick places his pocket change into his saving banks on his desk each evening. By his action, Patrick indicates that he believes that money is a what? So it is really straightforward. Again, money has 3 functions, okay? So the unit of specialization is not one of them. It's going to be, those 3 functions are medium of exchange, store of value, and unit of account, okay? With my personal experience with students, I think it is pretty straightforward to identify which one is store of value. So I'm not really worried about you're going to misclassify the store of value function. However, the unit of account and medium exchange are sometimes confusing, but we worked with one of the questions before, right? I think it's in the first 2 videos. So you can check that out if you are confused with medium of exchange and unit of account. 27. If an individual moves money from a saving deposit account to money market deposit account. So same thing, I'm going to use the graph over here, okay? So saving deposit account is over here. And this time I'm moving money from saving account to the money market deposit account. So I'm moving money from this account to the second account. Okay, so obviously M1 is not changing because cash and checking account do not change. And M2 does not change because you're just moving from one account in M2 to another account in M2, right? So both M1 and M2 will stay the same, which makes D the right answer. Okay, and question 28. Everything else held constant. When the government has higher budget deficit, what will happen? Okay. So I explained this. So I'm trying to find where my where my pen is pointing at. So we're trying to. So in the lab, I talked about that. What is budget deficit? Basically, that will be the difference between government expense and their tax revenue, right? So if this is their tax revenue, then this will be the budget deficit. And as you know, all the budget deficit has to be covered by issuing a government bond, right? So when the budget deficit is higher, it just means the supply of government bond is going to increase. Okay, so we're going to work with that. So we know the supply curve for bonds will shift to the right, but how does it change our interest rate? This will require you to draw the supply and demand curve out and to take a look of how the equilibrium is changing. All right, so supply shift to the right, that means increase, so we know price is going to drop, and we know interest rate and price are going to opposite direction, so interest rate will go up, which makes B the right answer. Okay. Question 29. Suppose in 2017 you buy 2 years 1,000 face value 5% coupon bond for $1,000. In 2018 interest rates decrease to 2%. If you decide to sell your bond in 2018, what will be the selling price of your bond and 1 year rate of return for you? Okay. So let's play a game first. So with no calculation, can you figure out the answer? I think probably we can, right? Because we know at the very beginning it is sell at the par value, right? So the selling price is $1,000, the face value is $1,000. So originally the interest rate should equals to the coupon rate, which is 5%. And after 1 year of holding it, the interest rate drops to 2%, right? And we know this. We know the relationship between interest rate between interest rate and price. When interest rate drops, price is going to increase. Okay, so I'm going to rule out option B and C, right? So it will be either 1020 or 1029, right? I think it is just too unreal to have like exactly 7% of return and 1020 over there, right? So basically, I'm going to guess B is the right answer. But however, I'm going to show you how to really get this answer, right? So we need to draw the payment schedule first. So at the beginning, we're going to buy this bond for $1,000, and at the end of the year, I'm going to collect my coupon payment, which is $50, right? And the end of the second year, I'm going to receive another coupon payment, and the face value is $1,000. Okay. Notice I leave a space over there indicating that I actually sold my. Okay, so I'm going to say, since this is year 1, I'm going to say that's P1. I sold my bond to someone else over there. So the first thing it asks is that what will be a fair price that you're going to sell your bond for, all right? So this is not hard. This is basically a 1-year coupon bond because what the left payment schedule will just last for 1 year, right? And we know the interest rate is 2% at that period, so it won't be hard to calculate it out. It's going to be $50 divided by 1.02 plus the face value was $1,000 divided by 1.02. All right. So let me use my calculator really quickly over here, and I think roughly the price is $1,029.41. Okay. So I'm right. D is the right answer. Okay. But hold on a second. I still need to show you how to calculate the return because it is possible that in your real exam, you will have an option that says exactly the same thing for the price you're going to sell, but with different return, right? So for the return, it's not very hard as well. Basically, I'm going to use the money I'm going to get on this day, which is the selling price, 1029.4, plus the coupon payment I collected, that's $50, minus the original price I paid for and divided by the original price. So briefly, that is going to be about 7.9%. Okay, so that confirms D is the right answer. All right, the last question today, question 30. If stock prices are expected to drop dramatically, then other things equal, the demand for stocks will do what, and the treasury bill will do what? So again, whenever you see two assets, I'm going to draw two graphs. Okay, so the first one will be for stock, where we have supply and demand. And then we're talking about T-bills. So treasury bills, those are short-term government issued loans. So supply and demand. So we know the stock price are expected to drop dramatically in the future. That means the return of stock is going to decrease, right? So if I have a share of stock right now, I expect to lose some money in the future. So I'm going to respond before the price really drops, right? So I'm going to reduce the demand for stock and put the money into treasury bills. The demand for treasury bill is going to increase. So demand for stock will decrease and the demand for treasury bill is going to increase. Okay. So it is happening like right now today. Today is Monday. Actually, it's Tuesday, so it's yesterday, right? So when the coronavirus is spreading in the world, everybody is feeling the financial market gets more risky. So they shift their investment into safer asset, which is treasury bills. So you see the interest rate. So you see a lot of demand increase over there. The price goes up and interest rate is going to go down by a lot. We saw that in the lecture as well. Okay, thank you for watching. And tomorrow I'm going to upload the last 10 questions for this practice exam.